Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and I'm a superhero. Okay, maybe not really, but I did get my second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine on Monday, so that's exciting news. We are not going to talk about the April Fool's Day joke of a game, or the following even worse joke of a game against Nashville. But since we last chatted, there have been some trades, and the Blackhawks are in the middle of a series against the Dallas Stars. So let's start with the trades. The day after April Fool's Day, April 2nd, the Blackhawks traded Brett Morrison to the Florida Panthers in exchange for, and tell me if you've heard this name before, Vinnie Hinostroza. That's right, the Blackhawks made their annual trade of bringing back a former player. I wasn't too happy about it. I'm sick of the trend of bringing back guys we've already seen in the organization. A lot of people were very happy about the trade, so we'll just have to see how it works out. I hope Brett Morrison gets some actual playing time. I'm not sure where Florida is sending their AHL players this season. I just looked it up. It appears to be the Syracuse Crunch, so hopefully he gets some playing time there. I felt like he deserved more playing time in Rockford. He was their most efficient point getter, but overall the Blackhawks traded a guy they weren't going to use in their NHL lineup for a guy that they will use in their NHL lineup. This season with the Ice Hogs, Brett Morrison played 6 games. He had 3 goals and 2 assists for 5 points. Not too shabby. He also spent some time with their ECHL affiliate, the Indy Fuel. Now let's take a look at Vinnie. His last season in the Chicago organization was 2017-18. He split time between the Blackhawks and the Ice Hogs, and when he was down in Rockford, he played for Jeremy Colleton. In 50 games with the Blackhawks that year, he had 7 goals and 18 assists for 25 points. With Rockford, he played 23 games, he had 9 goals and 13 assists for 22 points. After that season, he was sent to the Arizona Coyotes, who, along with the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes, are some of the only teams that Chicago makes trades with. 2018-19 was his first year with the Yotes. He played 72 games, he had 16 goals, and he added 23 assists for 39 points. Last season with the Coyotes, he played 68 games. Of course, the season was cut short because of COVID. He had 5 goals and 17 assists for 22 points. Then we come to this season, and he was with the Florida Panthers. He signed there as a free agent in the offseason. He played 9 games with the Panthers and had 0 points. So that's not super great. After the trade was made, a lot of people were talking about how he was one of the better players on the ice for Florida the last time they were in Chicago. That seemed to be a really popular talking point. It was kind of strange, but hey, sometimes people like to find the positives on Twitter. Very rarely, but sometimes. He played his first game back with the Chicago Blackhawks when they faced off against Dallas on Tuesday, and he put up 1 assist on a Dominic Kubalik goal. He should have had 2 assists, but Philip Kirsch's stick exploded when he took the shot off of a Vinnie pass. So he's already got more points in Chicago than he did with Florida this year. We'll see if he can turn the season around for himself and put up a few more points before it's over. Hinostroza is from Chicago. I'm sure he's happy to be back. By all accounts, he really liked playing for Jeremy Colleton, so we'll just have to see. I'm not as mad about it as I was before, but I am still pretty sick of the trend of bringing back old players. That brings us to today, when the Chicago Blackhawks made another trade with the Florida Panthers. Remember, I just said they only trade with Carolina, Florida, and Arizona, so I guess we should keep the other 2 teams on watch since the deadline is coming up on Monday. This time though, they did not trade for a former player, so let's jump into this one. We'll start with the players Chicago gave up. They traded Lucas Wallmark and Lucas Carlsson to Florida. Apparently, we just need to get rid of all players that are named Lucas. They're even both spelled the same. In the 2020 draft last fall, I guess it was now, in the first round, they drafted a guy named Lukas Reichel. His name is spelled with a K. So maybe the only players that are acceptable to be in the Hawks organization with the name Lucas, they must be spelled with a K instead of a C. It is no longer April Fool's Day, but that was a joke, so let's look at what these players have done for the Hawks this year. Lucas Wallmark is a 25-year-old center. He played 16 games with the Hawks, 0 goals and 3 assists for, obviously, 3 points. Now, the season's been a little weird for Wallmark. I was happy about the signing in the offseason. He's not a guy that's just gonna wow you with a bunch of skill, but he seems to be a very solid player. And that's what he showed at the beginning of the year. He was really effective on the penalty kill with Matthias Janmark. And then COVID entered the chat. He was out on COVID protocol. I believe he did in fact test positive for COVID, and he was out for quite a bit. Once he came back, he couldn't really find his footing in the lineup. He was in and out, and he never really looked effective when he was is back in. I guess it's just one of those seasons. Players are going to come down with COVID. Very unfortunately, if you're following what is going on in Vancouver, it's a very sad situation. Thankfully, Wallmark was able to come back, but his game was not the same as it was before. I hope that he can turn it around in Florida. Maybe it had nothing to do with COVID. Maybe it was just a change of scenery thing. Who knows? That would be great if it was. You never want to see anybody have lasting effects from it. If nothing else, hopefully he goes into the off season, has more time to recover and train, comes back next year, and has an even better season with whoever he signs with in the off season. Then we have Lucas Carlsson. He's a 23-year-old defenseman. He was a 4th round draft pick of the Chicago Blackhawks in 2016. He's spent most of his time in North America with Rockford, but he's gotten a couple games here and there with Chicago. His first season playing over here close to home was 2018-19. He played 69 games for the Ice Hogs. He had 9 goals and 24 assists for 33 points. Last season for Rockford, he played 48 games. He had 5 goals and 21 assists for 26 points. With the Blackhawks last season, he played 6 games and put up 1 assist. This season for Rockford, he's played 7 games. He's been one of those guys that's gone up and down. He's been in the Hawks lineup, he's been in Rockford's lineup, he's been on the taxi squad, he's been all over the place. It is a very messy season. But in those 7 games, he has 1 goal and 2 assists for 3 points. With the Blackhawks this year, he's played 12 games and he has 1 assist. I can't say a whole lot about Wallmark's game. Again, we only saw him for 16 games and only basically half of those he was an effective player. With Lucas Carlsson, the Hawks are trading a decent offensive defenseman. He's got a really strong shot from the point. He's worked on the defensive side of the game. He's looked a lot better this year than he did last year, but he was Defenseman of the Year in Rockford. With Aaron Ekblad being injured for the Florida Panthers, especially going into the playoffs, it makes sense for them to want to acquire an offensive-minded guy, especially a very cheap one. That allows them to add more players at the deadline. And while I usually wouldn't advise trading a young defenseman who has shown some promise like that, again, he's only 23 years old. He's put up pretty solid points in Rockford. It hasn't translated to the NHL yet. The Blackhawks have so many young defensemen in their system, somebody had to go. And Lucas Carlsson was the first one. I'm sure he won't be the last. So what did the Hawks get in return? Well, they got a 7th round draft pick, so that's fun. They also acquired Brett Connolly and Riley Stillman, and they acquired the rights for Henrik Borgström. Henrik is currently playing in Sweden. He did spend some time with the Panthers and their AHL affiliate in the past few years, but we'll get to that. We'll start with the most expensive guy in Brett Connolly. He's on the books for $3.5 million for the next 2 years. If you're doing the math, if the Hawks do not make another trade involving one of these 2 guys, they have Calvin DeHaan and Brett Connolly on the books for about $8 million next year. That's a lot for some depth guys. Yes, I know I'm just really hard on DeHaan this year. I just had to point it out, okay? So, last year, 2019-20 with the Florida Panthers, Connolly played 69 games. He had 19 goals. He also added on 14 assists, and that would equal 33 points. This season, with the Florida Panthers, he's played 21 games and has 2 goals and 2 assists. I don't know what the Hawks are doing with this whole reclamation project from the Florida Panthers, seeing as Vinnie was a point producer with the Coyotes, went to Florida, got 0 points. Brett Connolly likely would have hit 20 goals last year had the season not been cut short, and in 21 games this year, he's got 4 points. So we'll just have to kind of see how that works out, I suppose. Riley Stillman is a 23-year-old defenseman, so we traded one 23-year-old defenseman for another 23-year-old defenseman. I guess that kind of takes the sting away a little bit. And he was also a 4th round pick in 2016. So they basically swapped the same but different player. Last season in the NHL, he played 34 games. He had 0 goals and 5 assists. Last season in the AHL, he played 25 games and had 3 goals and 3 assists. This season in the NHL, he's played 8 games and 0 points. In the American League this year, he's played 5 games and he has 3 assists. So in the last week, the Blackhawks have acquired 3 players who have played in the NHL with the Florida Panthers this year, and they have a combined total of 4 points, and all of those came from one guy. And the Florida Panthers so far this year, as you may recall from the Hawks playing them a few times, are a team that just keeps scoring goals. So it's a little bit concerning that none of these guys just lucked into an assist assist. I guess we'll give Vinnie the benefit of the doubt here. He did register that 1 assist in the first game he played with Chicago. Like I said, he should have had 2. His second game will be tonight. We'll see. And when it comes to Riley Stillman, by all accounts, he is more of a defensive defenseman and not the offensive defenseman like Lucas Carlsson. So not registering so many points isn't really a concern with him. I was being a little over dramatic. But still, I really like points. But one of my favorite hockey players ever is Nicholas Hjalmarsson, and he doesn't put up very many points. So I won't write him off just yet, but I know he will never get to that level because no one can ever replace Hjalmarsson. Stupid Arizona. From everything that I've read online, everybody is saying that Henrik Borgström is the biggest part of this deal. He's a 23-year-old center. He's a bigger guy at 6'3". He was also drafted in 2016. That seems to be a common thread, but he was a first-round pick, which also isn't very surprising when it comes to Blackhawks trades. They do really like trading for former first-round draft picks. Dylan Strome being one of the biggest that comes to mind. And there's always Malcolm Subban. A fun little tidbit, he was teammates with Ian Mitchell at the University of Denver in 2017-18. That was Mitchell's first year there, and it was Borgström's last year there. So they just kind of crossed each other's paths for a little bit. That season with Denver, he played 40 games. He had 23 goals and 29 assists for 52 points. Not too shabby. Once his season was over, he made his NHL debut. He played 4 games with the Florida Panthers and registered 1 goal. In the next season, which would be 2018-19, he split time with both the Florida Panthers and their AHL affiliate. With the Panthers, he played 50 games. He had 8 goals and 10 assists for 18 points. In the AHL, he played 24 games, had 5 goals and 17 assists for 22 points. Last season, he also split time between the Florida Panthers and their AHL affiliate. With the Panthers, he played 4 games and registered 0 points. In the American League, he played 49 games, registering 11 goals and 12 assists for 23 points. This season, he is playing in the Liga. He's played 27 games. He has 11 goals and 8 assists for 19 points. So his point production has kind of fallen off a little bit. He's a big center who seems to have some promise to this game. I've read that he's a very skilled player. This is also kind of a reclamation project. I guess the Hawks are hoping that they can turn him around and get him back on the scoring track. But he is currently unsigned. He needs a new contract that will likely come this summer. If it comes at all, maybe he doesn't want to sign. You never know. It's a risky one, but even if he doesn't sign, it didn't cost the Blackhawks a whole lot. And if one or both of the other guys happen to chip in and help this team out, then I guess it comes out looking good for the Hawks. It's a very weird trade in my opinion. It was just kind of out there. We saw Lucas Wallmark being placed on waivers a few days ago. He cleared, I want to say it was yesterday. So there was a sense that something was going on with him at least. But other than that, there were no real rumblings until this morning, especially another trade with the Florida Panthers. Why couldn't they have just done this last week when they traded for Vinnie and made it a whole package? Who knows? I guess it's just one of those things that comes together afterward. So that's been the trade activity for the Blackhawks so far. Again, the trade deadline is on Monday, April 12th. That is this coming Monday. So, hold on to your seats. Let's just hope the Blackhawks don't do anything too terrible. Maybe they'll do something great. I don't believe they will do anything as shocking as traded Robin Lehner like they did last year. But now that I've said that, I'm kind of terrified they will do something even more shocking. So I am very sorry in advance. Now, I suppose we can talk about the actual game of hockey. On Tuesday night, the Blackhawks faced off against the Dallas Stars, much like they will again tonight, and they beat them 4-2. That thankfully ended their losing skid. They looked pretty good for the whole game. They got the first goal, they had the lead throughout the game, they never surrendered the lead, so that was good at least. The first goal of the game came 12 minutes and 13 seconds into the first period, and Kirby freaking Dach got in the goal column for the first time this year. That was assisted by Patrick Kane and Connor Murphy. It was a beautiful saucer pass from Patrick Kane. Those two connected on an earlier goal, but it was called back due to offside. Kirby made a great play, forcing a turnover, sending the puck to Kane, who was all alone with the goaltender. He made Jake Ottinger look a bit silly and tucked it around him. I think that's why they called it back. They felt bad for the goalie. But it doesn't really matter. It was not a good goal, but it was a very good goal to watch. Thankfully, that duo did not want to be denied, and they got Kirby his first goal this time. The second goal of the game came 9 minutes and 39 seconds into the second period. This was the goal I referenced earlier, Dominik Kubalik from Vinnie, Hinostroza, and Adam Boqvist. Another pretty play, they had a 2-on-1. It was a goal. You love it. The third goal of the game came 19 minutes and 5 seconds into the second period, and that was an Alex DeBrincat goal, a beautiful wrist shot that beat the goaltender. The broadcast thought it went off the crossbar at first, but nope, it was in. It was a goal. It was a beautiful snipe from Cat. And that was his 20th goal of the season. You gotta feel happy for the guy. He was beyond snake bitten last year. He was shooting the puck, that wasn't the problem, but it was just not going in for him. This year, it's a different story. And of course, you gotta feel good for him, but also it's very good for the Blackhawks as well. The fourth and fifth goals were scored by the Dallas Stars. One was a shorthanded breakaway. We just don't talk about that. But the sixth and final goal of the game was a Patrick Kane empty netter that sealed the game for the Hawks. That one came with 7 seconds left in the game, but hey, 7 seconds is a lot of time in hockey, and the Hawks only had a 3-2 lead at that point. Making it 4-2 was very important. And that is how the game ended. Patrick Kane was the first star of the game. Andrew Cogliano was the second star of the game. He's the one that got the shorthanded breakaway. But Kirby Dach was the third star of the game because, like I said, he got his first goal of the season, and he just had a great game all around, and he's had pretty great games since he's come back from his injury. It's kind of crazy to think about what this team would look like if Kirby had been here since the beginning of the season. I'm not saying they would be at the top of the division. That's crazy talk because, you know, Tampa and Florida and Carolina, but maybe they'd be kind of firmly in that fourth spot instead of being behind Nashville at this point. But those are what ifs, and we cannot live there, so let's talk about tonight's game. It is the second game of a 2-game series with the Dallas Stars. It is at the United Center. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. Here are my 3 questions. Question 1. Can the power play get back on the score sheet? Blackhawks scored 4 goals last game. They went 0 for 3 on the power play. You're not typically going to have one without the other. And these teams just seem to match up well, and they always play well against each other, so if the Blackhawks want to win 2 straight this week, 2 straight against the Dallas Stars, they are going to need to convert on the power play. They have the 5th best power play in the league. That was number 1 at one point, so they've fallen down just a little bit. Thankfully, they haven't dropped any more than they have, but it would be good to see them start converting on those chances again, maybe work their way back up, and it would be very nice to pass Nashville in the standings and maybe get that last playoff spot. So much wishful thinking to be had. Question 2. What will Vinnie's stat line look like? So this one's just kind of a fun question like we talked about earlier. Vinnie Hinostroza is back on the Chicago Blackhawks for his second tour with the team. He registered 1 assist in his first game, should have been 2. After having 0 points with the Florida Panthers so far this season, will he get back on the score sheet, and will he get more than 1? Maybe he'll get his first goal of the season. We will just have to wait and see. Question 3. Can the Blackhawks stay out of the box? So I sandwiched the fun question with some special teams questions apparently. While the Blackhawks have the 5th best power play in the league, the Dallas Stars have the 6th best power play in the league. The Hawks took 2 penalties on Tuesday. They did kill off both of them. The Dallas Stars went 0 for 2 on the power play. You absolutely love to see it, but you don't want to test fate that many times. So I am going to call this one the game of special teams, because if the Blackhawks want to win, they are going to need to convert on the power play, and they are going to have to stay out of the box to keep the Stars off of the power play. Seems like common sense, but you know, doesn't always work out that way. So those are my 3 questions, and those are the 2 trades that have happened so far this past week. Do you have any questions for the game ahead? How do you feel about those 2 trades? How do you feel about Vinnie being back in the organization? I would love to hear about everything. Please leave them in the comments down below. If you want to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you can head on over to FromCenterIce.com. Check out the latest podcast episodes, get game recaps for the Hogs, previews for the Hawks, and other things in between. If you're a social media person, you can follow us on all of the platforms. Those are all linked down in the description. That being said, thank you so much for watching. Let's hope that the Blackhawks get another win tonight. And go get your vaccines. It's starting to be easier in Illinois, so there you go. All that being said, I will catch you all after this one. Bye, guys. Thank you all for watching. Please hit that subscribe button to catch more From Center Ice content. If you could, hit the like button on this video, maybe share it with a friend or 2. And while you're here, check out the podcast playlist and catch up on some old episodes. We will catch y'all next time. Bye!